Okay. Well, I'm going to formally kick it off here. I want to welcome everyone once again to Healthy at Home Workshops and happy Veterans Day. I'm Jonathan Denholtz and I'm your host. I'm working alongside the wonderful team at Vivalon to develop and produce this online webinar series. Just a reminder, Healthy at Home is expressly designed to help you thrive at home, living more safely, more fully, more joyfully, and particularly during these sheltering in place times. We've got another great session lined up for you today. It's our last cooking class, at least for the time being. And it's once again led by the accomplished chefs and talented instructors at 18 Reasons. 18 Reasons, for those of you who don't know, is a community-focused culinary academy based here in San Francisco, where I am, and they do a lot of great work. Today's class is all about cooking for one. Just because you might be flying solo, living the bachelor or bachelorette life doesn't mean that you can't indulge your inner chef. And leading today's session is a couple of familiar faces, new friends. One is Tom Dawson. Tom is an accomplished chef and program coordinator at 18 Reasons. And Rebecca Murillo is the community programs director at 18 Reasons, who has spearheaded a couple of programs, all focused on helping get folks back into the kitchen. Rebecca, I'm going to toss it over to you to kick it off for us. Welcome back, Tom and Rebecca.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks, John, and welcome back, everybody. Again, my name is Rebecca. I'm the community program director at 18 Reasons. So I help run a lot of our Cooking Matters programming, and these are, as Jonathan stated, community-focused cooking programs that we do in San Francisco, Contra Costa, and Alameda County. And I've also been helping with a specifically Cooking for Seniors class in partnership with City of Oakland and UC Davis. It's called The Good Life. And that class has been going on since June. And so now we're sort of taking these, taking that long form class, making it into these shorter versions that we're bringing to you guys here today. And just a few reminders for everybody. We will go over a little Zoom etiquette before we fully get started. You can ask questions in 3 different ways. So the first way you can ask questions is by entering it into the chat box. And when you enter a question into the chat box, it will go to all the panelists. So that would be myself, John, and Tom. You can also use the Q&A function, and you should be able to see that at the bottom of your Zoom screen. And you can hover over it, click on it, and ask a question, and I will see that. The other way you can ask a question is you can raise your hand. So I believe you'll also be able to see that on the bottom of your Zoom screen. I don't have that feature because I have the panelist screen in front of me. And if you raise your hand, I will unmute you and you can have a nice conversation with Tom or myself. Yeah, so today I will let Tom get started with describing our recipes and everything for today. And as we've done previously, I will be transcribing all of that into the chat box for folks just to make sure we can all keep up. If anybody feels like we're going too fast, you guys can also say that in the chat box, and we're happy to accommodate everybody. Okay, Tom, over to you.
Welcome, everyone, and happy Veterans Day. So this is a subject that's near and dear to my heart as someone who is rapidly aging himself. I'm working through issues in our house. I'm the primary cook here, and I'm now dealing with an empty nest. So the amount of food that we consume and the amount of food that we can eat has gone down, and it's forced me to rethink a lot of things that I do, a lot of ways that I buy food, and a lot of the ways that I use food. And I'm also helping to care for aging parents and understanding some of the issues that are coming up now, especially around COVID, where we just don't want to go to the grocery store twice a day, maybe not even twice a month. So we're trying to make do under different circumstances. And, you know, we're also dealing with a lot of other issues, which we've got a survey on that we want to ask you to respond to. Are we ready to go with the survey? All right.
So no, the survey we'll do at the end today. We don't have the poll. Yeah, so
I'm
survey's at the
sorry.
end, so don't worry.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, sorry, that was a
okay.
miscommunication on our part.
So some of the things that I think are big issues when you're going, when you're dealing with moving from cooking for a family to cooking for one or two are changing budgets. As you become a senior, your budget may be different than it was. Changes in health status. We all encounter different health challenges as we age, and those can require changes to your diet. Smaller family size, clearly, in this time of COVID, access to grocery stores, physical limitations. Sometimes it's easier to cook sitting down than it is to cook standing up. And that's something that we may have to deal with. And then the last thing is kind of old habits that we've developed over years that worked for us when we were in our 20s and 30s that may not work for us as well as we're getting into our 60s and 70s. So there's a lot of, even though you all are experienced, you've been in kitchens, you know your way around, there just may be some different ways to think about the knowledge that you already have in your head that will help you to function better in a new environment, in a small environment when you're just cooking for one or two. So, pardon me, the recipes we're going to cook today, we sent you recipes for a veggie black bean quesadilla. We're going to change it up a little today. Part of what we want to talk about is using what you've got, is extending, like stretching from meal to meal, using the same ingredients and getting several meals out of the same ingredients. These are strategies that are great as you're dealing with cooking for one. So we're gonna, what I've done is I bought a rotisserie chicken. You can get a rotisserie chicken for between $6 and $10 at most grocery stores. We're here to tell you to cook your own food and not necessarily rely on prepared food. But a rotisserie chicken is generally pretty straightforward, and it's a good ingredient that you can, a convenient ingredient that you can work into your cooking routine. So we're going to change that recipe from a veggie black bean quesadilla to a chicken veggie black bean quesadilla. And again, if you don't eat chicken, don't use chicken. If you've got leftover meat or some other protein in your fridge that you'd like to use, you can use it. The second dish we're going to make is a massage kale salad. I realize we've done a massage kale salad before in this class, but we're going to do a Caesar salad today, slightly different. And I'm going to kind of run you through some of the things that we can do with that kale to make the meal stretch from day to day. And then finally, we're going to make a healthy soda. It's a raspberry lime fizz, which it was pointed out to me is basically like a Cosmopolitan without vodka. So if for the adults, we can think of it as a Cosmopolitan without vodka, and if you've got younger visitors, it's a nice soda. So that said, let's get started cooking. I'm gonna get started with some vegetables. So the first thing that I want to do.
Spotlight your cutting board now, and I believe Jonathan is adding your survey prompt just so we can get people's ideas on that in a second.
Okay, perfect. So since the vegetables that we're going to cook up here are going to be kind of a base that we're going to use as in the quesadilla, we're going to get started on them first. And one of the kind of central themes running through the presentation today is, we want to use what we have, and we want to try to make it stretch from meal to meal. So you can cook up this little veggie base, right? And you can use it not only in these quesadillas, but you can use it in other meals. You can use it in soups. If you make enough of it, just put it in the fridge. Use it in the next 4 or 5 days, and it'll go really well into other dishes that you make. So these peppers, I got them about 2 weeks ago, and this is the bottom end. You can see they're starting to get a little bit.
So a little sad.
Yep, a little sad.
A little sad, but not all the way sad.
So I'm gonna the sadder parts I'm gonna not use clearly,
Okay.
but just use.
And
the
what
happy
kind of
parts.
peppers are those, Tom? Because to me, those look kind of like habaneros. And I definitely don't want to eat 7 habanero peppers.
Oh, that's how I roll. I mean, I'm gonna,
Yeah.
no, these are those little peppers that come in the plastic bag in the produce section they're little sweet peppers.
Okay.
And so, yeah, they won't burn you up.
Okay. And we actually have a raised hand from Glennis. So I'm going to unmute her now. All right. Glennis, you should be able to unmute yourself. Let's see if that works.
I can't see what he's doing.
Oh, okay. Let me see.
I've experienced
It's probably
this
because
before.
we have the split spotlight. So thank you, Glennis. I'm going to remove one spotlight. Okay. How about now?
Oh,
I'm trying to do thumbs
Better.
up.
good.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. We
So
will continue going.
I just want to show you how I'm going to trim this pepper off, and this works for larger peppers too. I'm going to stick the pepper on its end, and then I'm just going to trim off, kind of like you're making heroes. You're cutting off the meat from the spit,
Okay.
and just pulling off these little plates of pepper. If you're doing this with hot peppers, the hot part of the peppers are the seed bed and these white membranes. And so you can, if you do this method, you can avoid that seed bed and those membranes with this technique. Now this one's got a little sad spot here, so I'm going to just avoid that. And it's okay if it's a little soft, because I'm going to cook this up, right? So it's going to get soft anyway.
Great. And Tom, we do have the question available to poll now.
Okay. Yeah, so we were just, I think we were trying to get a sense of where you're at, and
Yeah.
what kind of barriers you all have to cooking at this point in your lives. And so that'll be reflected in the chat.
So I will do the chat. I will start the poll while you finish cutting your peppers, and I'll give
Perfect.
people some time to answer. So everybody, we have a little poll here. So the question is, what challenges do you face eating healthy and affordable meals? And you can choose any and all that apply to you. And this will help us get a better sense of other topics we can cover throughout this next hour. Great. Great, so we have about half of people responding now. I'll leave it open for a little longer, and then I will close it and I'll share the results with everybody.
Wow, already seeing some interesting results.
Yeah. All right. Maybe 10 more seconds and then I'm going to close it up. Okay, great. And I'm going to share the results. So our top answers were tighter budgets or tight budgets, smaller family size, and old habits. So hopefully we can address all of those things today. We did have some change in health status and access to grocery stores, which are great. I feel like we're already kind of hitting some of those with One, this bag of peppers is actually a lot cheaper, I think. If you're, I know at Berkeley Bowl, it's cheaper. You can check the grocery store closest to you. I think this bag of peppers usually goes for a few dollars. And like Tom said, they stay good for a long time, as opposed to buying a few bell peppers, using parts of them, and then seeing the rest of those parts go sad or limp or wilt, which I think that, like, that's why I like these peppers, is because you can keep so many more of them intact and they will stay good for longer, as opposed to, I used half a bell pepper for this one thing. I'm going to leave it in my fridge now, and then it gets gross.
That's always the issue, isn't it? Like there's,
Yeah.
these are nice because they're you can pull out 3 or 4 peppers and they're small enough so that you know you're going to use them all. And then when we get to the end like this, it just made sense for me to reuse this or use this before it goes bad, rather than buying a zucchini, which I don't think zucchinis are really in season right now. So it's better for me to use, kind of what I have. So I'm just trying to cut these up into similar sizes so that when we go to get them on the stove and start cooking them, that they cook in some sort of kind of predictable way. We don't have half of them overdone and half of them still raw. So I'm trying to get that consistency. So the old habits thing, I mean, that seems to be our #1 answer. And also it's a challenge that I can definitely understand and relate to. I'd had a soda habit and I switched off of sugared sodas years ago, but was still drinking, diet sodas, and then started reading about what diet sodas were that diet sodas were potentially not any better for you than sugared sodas. So I was really excited to find this recipe for the raspberry lime fizz, which we'll do later. It's super easy to make. And one thing that I found is that I've taught these lessons to classes of teenagers, and teenagers are not yet worried about drinking sugary sodas. So having that conversation with teenagers and then trying to get them to switch to something that's really low in sugar can be kind of a stretch. But the advantage of this recipe that we're going to do later is that you can make it a little bit softer or a little bit sweeter at the start. Like I would serve the same soda over 3 weeks of classes and would gradually add more soda water than juice, and nobody would notice by that 3rd week.
That sounds like a psychology experiment to me.
That's
we also have a question in the chat from Sean to us, and he's curious to know what some of the old habits are that people are speaking of. So Tom, you mentioned your old habit of drinking a lot of soda. If other people want to share their habits in the chat box, I can read them out. If you don't feel comfortable sharing, that's totally fine. But I think probably a lot of habits that are similar to that. For me, I have a habit of eating a lot of potato chips because I love potato chips. And now I've learned that you can actually roast chickpeas to make them really crunchy. And you can just roast them in the oven and they're so good. And you can use olive oil and they have a lot more protein than potato chips. So that's how I've adapted something that I loved.
Those are delicious.
Yeah, so good. Really good on top of this kale Caesar salad too, I will say.
This is an onion. Oop, let me sneak it around. There it is. This is an onion that's been sitting in my fridge for about a week. Now you can see it's starting to grow some new roots, searching for dirt, but the onion's fine. I'm just going to clean it off and make some more strips with it. Now, onion's not in the recipe, but onion's in my kitchen, and onion's about to die. So let's use the onion. There's kind of an art to making substitutions. And I think like basically the art is you want to look at what element that you're trying to substitute out or substitute for, and in the dish, and try to replace it with something that makes sense. So I don't want to replace zucchini with a can of tuna fish. It's not going to go. But since we're going to be sautéing these things, we don't need to worry about. I mean, this is a pretty good substitution. It does flavor-wise, it's not the same as a zucchini, but the result in the dish, I'll be fine with some sautéed onion in my dish rather than zucchini.
Mm-hmm. And Tom, I saw that you had your onion in a Ziploc baggie.
Yes.
Could you explain a little why you do that, and why maybe my method of just keeping it in a opened, what is it? Those little quart containers that you might get like soup in, might not be a great idea.
I don't know. I keep it in a baggie because for a reason that I don't know is meaningful to anyone else, but it's because my wife has a thing about raw onions, and if she opens that fridge and smells raw onions, it's not going to be good. So so that's my strategy there. What do you, can you explain what you were getting at?
So this is something that I grew up watching my mother do, and I'm guessing she probably grew up watching her father do because he was the cook in the house. And it's basically just like, maybe I bought a plastic container that had like olives or soup or something in it. And when I'm done eating those things, I clear out the container, but I save it. And then it just becomes the extra bits container that I just keep in my fridge. And it's just, I don't put a top on it. So I have like a half an onion, or I'll have like a half a lemon or a half an avocado, or like little nubs of like ginger and turmeric. And I just keep them all in that container, and it's clear, and I keep it on the like top shelf so that I can see it. So that way I'll like know like, oh, okay, I need to like use these weird little odds and ends. But I'm sure that's not the,
I actually love
it's
that
probably
idea.
not keeping them super fresh, but I think seeing your onion in a bag, maybe I'll try to prioritize putting a lid on that. But yeah,
So
that's what I've used to like try to get me to use the scraps.
I can see like maybe a meeting of the minds here, and that would be like having a container in the fridge that held all of your, kind of half used things, so that to look there first. Because the problem I have sometimes is with the little baggies is that my wife will move them to get to the spinach.
Yes,
And then
you forget.
I lose sight of it, and I find it later as a decomposed bag of nothing. So
yeah, and I think this is an advantage to having some experience working in like the food service industry, right? Or like in a prep kitchen, where you really have to think about using everything and keeping everything that needs to be used first in the front of your fridge, right? The first in, first out.
Yep. So I've got the heat going on the stove.
Oh, also Mayflower says butter or other delicate foods could pick up onion flavor if it's unsealed. So that's another great reason to keep all your things sealed.
A good call.
Yeah, thanks,
well
Mayflower.
Done.
Yeah,
I love that. So I'm just adding a little olive oil to the pan, and then I'm going to take my onions are going to be the longest cookers along with the peppers. So I'm going to get them in the pan.
Switch the screen now.
Okay.
It's on the pan now, just so you know.
Okay, great. And I'm adding the onions and the peppers to the pan. And then I'm just gonna let them roll, but they do look beautiful. One of the things that we always talk about, and it's a feature of our classes from kids classes up to senior classes, is is that cooking with food that has different colors in it brings different nutritional benefits. So I love looking at this pan and seeing everything that's going on in there. And knowing we're just getting started, we've got more colors about to happen. All right.
Yeah, you're basically making it like a fajita chicken quesadilla. What I see is that's happening here.
Yeah, there's absolutely nothing authentic about what I'm doing. It's just, I really feel like quesadillas are such a gift because, especially when you're cooking for one, because you can cook a quesadilla for a bunch of people, or you can cook it for one person. You can even, if you can't, if you want to do it, you can cook for like a half of, like one tortilla, fold it in half, and that really cuts things back. So you can, it's basically like making half a sandwich. So I'm going to take my spinach now and on the cutting board, and I'm going to just chop up I'm going to use the stems. The stems are perfectly tasty. They'll cook down and get soft. But I'm just running my knife through the spinach to kind of get it into a little bit smaller pieces. Be careful to maintain my claw so that I don't cut off any fingers, which would be bad. Okay, so the spinach is cut up. Now the recipe calls for a cup of spinach, but I've got all this kale over here for making the salad. And I want to use some of that too, because I intend to stretch this out and use this as kind of a base for cooking through the week. Yeah. So I'm going to take
I see you're adding the stems in there too.
Oh yeah, they cook down nicely, and I love the stems. They're tasty. So I'm also going to throw in some kale. Just rip that into smaller pieces.
Nice. We love, I also teach some kids classes with the Berkeley School District. And in those classes, we talk a lot about parts of the plant. And so we talk about when we're eating stems, we think about how that functions as the part of the plant. So the stem is bringing up all the nutrients from the soil into the leaf. So stems actually are very nutrient dense. And I think we kind of talked about this with our kale salad last week, but yes, I just think that that's a really fun way to think about why you should eat different parts of your fruit or vegetable, because you are getting a little extra nutrients from that stem.
One thing as I'm going to cook this down, I'm going to add just a little pinch of salt, because the salt will help to break down the cell walls. I just have to keep that in mind as I'm continuing to cook, so that I don't over season this. I want to kind of keep my salt under control. So I realize I'm adding it now. I may not add. I'll make sure to taste it before I add any more later. So this is just going to take a little bit to cook down, and we'll come back to this. But let's get to the salad. So if we go back to the cutting board.
Switch our screen. There we go.
Well, I know we've been through this already, so I'm going to be quick with you about it. But I've already pulled this kale off of the stem. And I'm just going to show you how I do it. It's not any different than what Rebecca does, except I'm pulling it off kind of step at a time, so that I automatically get these bite-sized bunches. And then it starts to become less compliant towards the end, and that's okay. So we've got all the kale, and I'm only going to make enough of a portion for myself and my wife. So I'm going to roll the kale up, and then I'm going to kind of switch directions with it and roll it again.
That's a fun method.
I find it works the best and the fastest.
Yeah.
Because you tend to kind of, sometimes you get those little ribs in the kale that
Mhm.
that want to fight you, and by
Mhm.
going in both directions, you kind of take those ribs out of the picture. But I imagine doing this for like this entire bowl of kale would get to be pretty boring viewing. So I'm gonna just do what we need to do. So
Tom, what heat is your pan on the stove? What heat level?
it's pretty much a medium low.
Okay.
I'm just trying to. I don't want to get any color on those onions or on the peppers. I just want them to soften and kind of become kind of mixed together, become one ingredient.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
we'll
that's
have the
great. And it's giving you time to do all this other stuff, which is nice. Could
yeah.
you, if you wanted this to cook really fast, would you just put it on a higher heat?
I'd be careful about it because again, I don't want to get the color.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you wanted to get the color, if you're really going for the fajita plan,
Yeah, sometimes
then
I do that.
yeah, but you can maneuver with the pan, but it just takes more attention to if you're gonna, the more heat you use, you better be watching the pan. And I realize that I'm
Yeah.
doing other things while this is going. So I've made that mistake enough times in my life that I feel like I've maybe learned that lesson, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe not.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to finish up on this kale. And again, as you've seen this before, so you know the plan, the kale gets darker and softer with the
Mm-hmm.
massaging. And it takes away a little bit of that, the bitter flavor that you can get with kale that hasn't been massaged. Yeah, so I'm just doing a few leaves at a time. At the end of this, I'm going to look like the Incredible Hulk. My hands are going to be kind of green from all the cell walls that we're breaking, but that's okay. It washes right off. Rebecca, do you know if any of the nutrients are going to be able to permeate my skin and enter my body?
You know, I'm not sure if that's a diet trend we're seeing yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if kale wraps for extra magnesium absorption are in the future. You never know.
Get on that right now. That's
Yeah, new business idea.
exactly. That'll fund your retirement.
Yeah, that'd be great. This is great. I mean, this seems like such a, also if you're looking for a really nice presentation on your kale salad, this seems like a really good way to do it.
Well,
And again,
some.
and also if you had a helper with you, or if you have someone visiting, this is a great task for them to do if you want them to take more time with it.
This is. I see the note from Sean. This is actually regular full-on kale. It's it just kind of grows with these little natural breaks in the leaves that allowed me to break it into little bite-sized pieces. And you're right that baby kale doesn't need to be massaged as much as regular kale. You can use that in salads kind of as it is. It's just as kale, grows old and cogety, it kind of gets harder to deal with.
Yeah. And remember, kale is one of the sturdier vegetables, which I think we've been talking about a lot. So it will stay good in your fridge for a long time.
Well, this is, like I said, I got this at a farmer's market a week and a half ago. So and it feels perfectly fresh, which is why I get kale. And if I feel like I can't make it to the market one day, I'm not going to be without a salad. I can always, make a quick kale salad. So I think we're getting to about the amount of kale that I want to try to make. And I'm going to go back and take a look, give these a little stir. They're coming along nicely. Starting to smell good.
Oh, sorry, let me switch you again. There we go. Now we can, oh yeah, that looks great.
Adding a little
Yeah, that looks
pepper.
like you could save some for a number of things.
That's
Or
really
not just quesadillas.
exactly. I mean, I kind of think, again, one of the things about being older is that you don't always want to you don't always want a big meal. You don't always want to go in and cook a have a big production in the kitchen every night. So if I know that I'm going to be making soup later with this lovely chicken that I've got there, then what I can do is sure
Chicken.
chicken.
Yeah, there it is. It's great.
So we can take that when I'm making soup in a couple of days off of this chicken. I'll have the rest of these vegetables available to just add to the soup stock.
Mm-hmm.
So they're getting close, and I'm at that point where I want to turn the heat down just a touch because we could be in danger of browning them. You can kind of hear the pan starts to make a little bit higher pitched noise as the water evaporates from the vegetables. And when I start to hear that noise, it alerts me that we've reached another stage of cooking. So I'm going to turn the heat down. So again, adding the chicken to to this meal is going to be we'll have a lot of flexibility about what we can do, but kind of what I'm thinking about for tomorrow is cutting off.
Tom, how long would you say that base of your onions and peppers and greens would last in the fridge?
I'd say about 4 or 5 days. I wouldn't go any longer than that.
And you could probably freeze this too, if you really had too much, and that would last in your fridge for at least a month. I wouldn't leave it in there too long. You don't want it to get freezer burned.
Yeah, and I would definitely. I mean, and the soup is good frozen too. So
yeah.
So I'm going to pull out this little slab of white meat, and I'm going to use that as my meat. Now, I cut off the leg and thigh quarters because that's something I can make tomorrow for dinner. So I can take some of this kale and saute it up, and then just heat up those quarters.
And also, I wanted to make a note for those people that mentioned that budgeting was a little tricky in our poll. That, I think these chickens usually cost under $10 at the grocery store. The peppers will cost a few dollars, and a bunch of kale costs $1. So you could really stretch a lot of these ingredients. Maybe it would cost you, I don't know, $20, $30 for everything, but you could stretch that into like 4 or 5 meals, maybe even more. Yeah.
Actually, the $10 is kind of, I think, probably on the high end for a rotisserie chicken. But
yeah, I think at Safeway they're like $5.
Yeah,
they're like crazy cheap now. Yeah,
super cheap. So all I'm going to do is just kind of cube this because the quesadilla form is going to require that a lot of stuff kind of fit in there together. So I took the skin off just so that I think for me, that's like eating a little healthier. And I'm going to take this off of the heat now and switch on my quesadilla making pan.
All right, so a nice flat big pan.
because I've got these gigantic flour tortillas, which will barely fit in the pan. So I started going. I'll confess something here. Before I was working with 18 Reasons, I did not use whole wheat tortillas. I started using them, and now I can't use white flour tortillas. I just think they taste better. So I've switched completely over to them. They have the same flexibility and pliability, and they just add kind of a nuttiness to the flavor. So I'm going to let that pan get warm. Again, I've got it kind of on low to medium heat. The idea is I first want to get the tortilla soft, and then I'm going to start adding things to the tortilla. One thing I do have to do, and I forgot all about this. I'm going to put on a second burner so that we can continue to warm that pan up. But I do want to still add my black beans to the vegetables. So what I would do, actually what I will do is pull out the portion that I want to save for my soup. And then kind of take that out of the equation so that I'm going to let it come down to room temp, and then I'm going to heat it up. So I've just got canned black beans, and then I'm going to add some, but not all, of canned corn to the pan. And I'm just using, the lowest price corn I could find in the store. Canned fruits and vegetables have the same nutritional benefits of fresh ones. They're generally picked at peak season, so they're very good for you, and they'll last in your pantry forever. So one thing about being an older cook that I found is that my pantry is very important to me. I want to be able to cook meals out of my pantry and be able to have things that I can rely on my pantry. So I like pasta. I like making pasta because I can get a lot of vegetables into my pastas. So I keep in my pantry maybe 5 or 6 different kinds of raw pasta that I can use. And that works for me. I keep a little Parmesan cheese in the house. Like with those 2 ingredients, I can turn a lot of things into a dish. When you try to cook things from a lot of different recipe palettes, it's really easy to find yourself with ingredients that you buy, but if you don't use it regularly, they can just kind of end up taking up space in your pantry. Okay, so I've got those in and heated up. I'll move the tortilla pan back to the front and get that guy in there. So that's going to start to heat up, and while we're waiting for that to heat up, I'm going to use some cheese. Now, there are a lot of options for cheese in a quesadilla. You can use the cheese that comes pre-shredded in the dairy aisle, and it's not my favorite because I think it tends to come with some preservatives that keep it from sticking together. And it's really not all that hard to actually do it myself. So if I can actually find my
Yeah, I feel like this is always the trade-off in quesadilla making. It's like, do you make the quesadilla cheaper by buying a block of cheese and shredding it yourself? You definitely get a lot more bang for your buck. Or do you buy the pre-shredded cheese and make it much easier on you to just toss it in there and have fewer dishes to clean up? But just, just something to note that is, you're paying for somebody else to grate the cheese for you, right? So, and that's totally fine if that's what you really want to do.
I have to admit, I've done both, and I think
Yeah.
there's just something really lovely about getting home and being able to have dinner on the table in 15 minutes. If you've got like a lot of, if you've got, leftovers in the fridge and you've got stuff that you want to use and you've got the tortillas, you can go right away. But so I used pepper jack, which is, you have choices about what you want to use, and that just works the best for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start assembling this. And I'm going to take these vegetables and lay them on top of this tortilla. Try to spread them out somewhat evenly, knowing that there's more to come. I don't want to get too overloaded. And I do want to try to at least get close to the edge with them, if not over.
We have had a note that shredded cheese is on sale quite frequently from the Mayflower account.
Ooh.
So if that is something that you're looking for, then that is great. I know that I sometimes gravitate more toward shredded cheese because I hate dishes. I don't want to wash the dishes. So for me, sometimes I accept that is going to be worth the extra money or whatever else the trade-offs are.
We all make our compromises in life, right?
And I love the blends. I like that you can get a blend of a few cheeses instead of buying a block. But yeah, if I need to cut some costs and budget more, then I will buy the block of cheese. And I will just be like, today I only get one type of cheese instead of a blend.
So taking that chicken that we cut up, and I'm just trying to spread it out relatively evenly on the quesadilla. See a chicken desert there that I'm going to try and fill. Now I'm going to turn the heat up a little bit on this because now I really wanted to, I'm going to put that cheese in there, and I do want it to melt. So I think we sometimes get a little overboard with cheese. Again, I grew up in the Midwest where I have memories of going to the lovely state of Wisconsin and telling them to make my pizza with 1/10 of the cheese they would normally use on it and having it be still too thick with cheese. But I don't know, I love cheese and things, but I just don't need too much of it. So here we are with kind of everything that's set to go in there. And I'm going to add this tortilla on top. Now, what you can do if you're just making this for one is just fill up half of the tortilla with the ingredients, and then fold that tortilla over. So you've got one. It'll also make it easier to flip. So, but I'm feeding 2 for lunch today. So I'm just going to try to put a little weight on there to get that to kind of meld together. And while we're waiting for that to happen, I'm going to clean my cutting board because I used it to cut chicken. And I'm very cautious whenever I cook with chicken, especially raw chicken, to make sure that I clean everything in between uses. I'm going to clean my knife as well. And then I'm going to just run my knife through some cilantro. And
Sean is asking what the temperature of the burner is at that your quesadilla is on?
Up to a medium on it now. And
Okay.
I'll show you
You
one
a
thing I'm gonna,
crunchy tortilla person?
I like them a little crunchy. On the second
Okay.
side, if we can go back to the pan, on the second
Oh, I will
side,
switch back to the pan now.
cool. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna give it a little quick spray
Oh,
of oil, just a quick fast spray of oil. So if you want it, if you like it really crunchy, this is a thing to do. And instead of putting the salt inside the tortilla, I'll take a little bit of salt, just a tiny bit, and dust it on top. So as this starts to cook, we've got most of the cheese on this side. So what I'm going to have to do is flip that baby over. And having made tortillas for a long time, or quesadillas for a long time, I have a pretty big flipper here.
wow, that is giant.
It is giant.
Oh, wow.
Whoa,
Even so, sometimes you just get a little messy, and that's fine.
that was messy.
Sometimes, so my strategy behind this is that sometimes I will put the first tortilla down and then a little bit of cheese and then the
Yeah.
rest of it and then some more cheese, because then you kind of make glue on both sides.
That's a good call.
Yeah.
But I'm just gonna,
But
The
the
one
good news is,
thing-
I mean, you can just scoop it back in. So
Yeah.
that's fine. Yeah.
it's funny because when you're cooking, especially when you're, I don't know if anybody watches the British Bake Show, but there's that whole thing when somebody's cooking up a recipe and it looks like a nightmare, and then all of a sudden the recipe is on the plate at the end, and they've managed to frost their way out of whatever trouble they got themselves into. So when we do this for presentation, we will hide a multitude of sins here. So don't have to worry about it. So now I'm going to just back to the chopping board. I'm going to
right.
I've got some cilantro, and what I'm going to do is I don't want to cut it up too much. I still want it to be recognizable as cilantro. You could throw this into the inside. I'm just going to make it available on the outside. And if you're feeding somebody who's not a cilantro fan, this is the way to go. As I get down to the area with more stem, again, I'm using the stem. The stems of the cilantro are super flavorful. And actually, if you ever see cilantro sold with the roots on them, cilantro roots are super flavorful.
Oh, interesting.
But you just want to cut them thinner as you get to the bottom, because actually getting a big old piece of stem is harder to eat than a lovely leaf. But this way we've kind of got the benefits of both. We've got the flavor from the stem, and we've got the kind of attractive look of the leaf. And I'm just going to serve it with that, so that it's up to my guest. Where are we?
Right there. Right there.
Ah, it's
Perfect. Yeah.
So it's nice and easy. And then the salad in our recipe that you've got, there are instructions to make dressing to save time, and also just to show you that how simple this doesn't have to be hard. I'm just going to use a basic vinaigrette that I've already made and got in the fridge.
Or, I mean, if you do still buy bottled dressings, just as easy as that, right?
Yep. It's I do. I have there's a bottled dressing that's in my marriage contract. It's actually part of the vows in our ceremony. That
Wow.
I know. My wife is committed to this dressing.
What dressing is it?
It's called True French. It's just a very basic, not
Oh,
sweet
okay.
French dressing
Wow.
by La Martinique.
Mhm.
So it's there's nothing fancy in it. It's something that you could make very easily, but they use good ingredients and it's the
Yeah.
same every time.
Sometimes it's that same convenience thing, right? Like sometimes it's just nice to have the bottle already
Yeah.
made in the fridge that you can use whenever.
So I don't know about this is one of my peccadillos, but for making salad and for eating salad, I love using chopsticks. I have a hard time now eating salad without chopsticks because
Interesting.
I feel like I don't crush like when you're using more delicate lettuce, it's a
Mhm.
lot easier to eat it without crushing it
Yeah.
than if you were, using a fork to try and do it. And I'm just going to
Oh.
take a little bit of Parmesan cheese, enough to give it a little bit of
Great.
flavor.
And we
And then,
are almost at noon, just letting you know for a little time check.
okay,
It
we
looks
will
like we're
be,
approaching done. Oh, great.
we are approaching done.
Yeah.
So I added some pine nuts that I had roasted to make pesto last week. And I'd
Mhm.
thrown the leftover pine nuts in the freezer. And again, I'm trying to demonstrate the ability to take what we already have, what we have in small
Mhm.
amounts left, and kind of make one meal flow into the next, and kind of
Mhm.
not waste. So let me get a plate. And I'm going to pull out my plate. And let's hope that this goes more smoothly.
All right, hold on. I'm switching your camera now. There we go.
I don't know
Looks
if
like it might still be a little.
a little trouble. Oh,
That is the other benefit sometimes of doing the single tortilla quesadilla, because the double
oh, it
sometimes
is.
is kind of hard to flip.
I maybe should have made two half
Yeah.
tortillas rather than one whole one. But anyway, here's the final result, and it is good
Wow,
and
that does look
crunchy.
nice and crispy.
Yeah. So I'm going to move it over to the cutting board,
All right.
and then if you're so inclined, you can use a pizza wheel to cut it. Put it out on a pizza pan, or just cut it right on your plate. But it is nice and crispy on that side.
It looks delicious. I love hearing that little crunch too.
Yeah, the crunch is nice.
That's going to be a good lunch.
And again, we've got, I don't know
All
if
that
you can
stuff
see.
inside.
Yep. And our salad, and we'll just over at least one half of it. Well,
Yeah.
So really quickly, I'm going to show you how to do the healthy soda. Fortunately, it takes literally
30
no time.
seconds. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Last edition.
I have this a ball jar filled with about 2 cups of cran raspberry juice, and I've got some soda water, and I've got some limes. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut my lime in half, and again,
And
you can use.
I love the flavors of like lime and those berries. Is such a good combo.
I love limes
Yeah.
in just about anything, so I'm just using this
Oh, nice.
squeezer and squeezing the lime right into the jar. I'm going to do both sides of the line because I really like it. Okay. And then I'm going to add the soda. So that's about twice the soda. So this is at teenager level. And let me get up to about adult level. So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to throw some ice cubes in there and shake it around, and we're good to go.
Great.
You got lunch.
And I am going to share the document really fast that we sent out to everybody this morning. I'm going to share my screen just so people can see what's on it as Tom finishes up. So everybody got, let's see, it should be popping up. Everybody was shared this document. It's called CM Handout. CM stands for Cooking Matters. And these are our, it's 28 pages and you get tons of information in here. A lot of this is what we covered today. So we have menu planning basics. So it's a really great worksheet to get you thinking about how you can plan for a few meals at a time. I know it seems really intimidating, but I do think just taking it 1 week at a time or even just like a few days at a time is really useful. We also have a pantry guide, as well as other tips for how to stock your pantry, how to stretch your ingredients. This is a lot of what Tom covered today. Substitutions. Sorry, I'm going kind of fast. And then again, things that Tom covered today, making a recipe work for you. So a little more substitution, how you could substitute, let's see, how you could switch a meat or a vegetable, or you can change the seasoning to make it more of what you would like. And then we also have, if you're shopping with kids, this is useful for how to have kids help you. We know that might not be happening as much now with COVID, but just for the future. And then a really great resource here is tips for freezing, thawing, and refrigerating your food. So again, obviously great ways to stretch your ingredients are to freeze them or save them for later, as Tom is doing with the rest of his peppers. So here's a few tips on how to do that. And then we have quick dips, different fruits and veggies. I don't think so. I'm only halfway through this. And then we have 3 different ways to cook veggies. So I'm going to stop there because I think that was plenty of what this could be. Really, and then I also am going to post our survey one more time in the chat box. And Tom, you can continue.
I was just going to say that I love that document. I mean, there's so much good stuff in there. It's really practical stuff that will help you to cook healthy food on a budget. And I've learned a lot from it. I find it to be really helpful, and I hope you guys make good use of it. Enjoy it.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you,
Jonathan.
Thank you, Tom and Rebecca. That was awesome. And I can't wait to actually dive into that document myself. I think it's going to be hugely helpful because I feel like we go to the store every 3 days and it's like a big time sink and it's hugely inefficient. So looking forward to checking that out. Thanks also for the wonderful presentation. You guys are awesome. I'm just so grateful for your partnership and for you diving into these cooking classes on behalf of Aya Places and Vivillon. And couldn't be more grateful. So thanks again. If folks have any questions for you guys or a follow-up, is there a way to get in touch or any recommendations?
Great question. So I'm going to put my email and Tom's email in the chat.
Also,
and people can definitely, Sorry, go ahead, Tom.
Has a YouTube page that has some other interesting content, interesting recipes, content in Spanish and in English. So there's stuff on our website, but also on our YouTube page.
Awesome.
I will link that right now.
Oh, thanks. Well, I hope to lure you guys back into the fold here at some future date, perhaps in the new year.
It'd
And
be
we
an
do have
honor.
one hand raised from Glennis again.
Oh, go for it.
So I will allow you to talk, Glennis. I'll ask to unmute you.
Just wanted to thank you again very much.
Yeah,
Awesome.
of course.
Thank you,
Thank you for
Glennis.
joining us.
That was very interesting. Very
Yeah.
interesting.
Great.
Thanks,
Thank you so much for being here. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, and I just want to remind everybody. Also, we've got some great sessions coming up. I know there's only a handful left in the room, but we've got an expert on sexuality coming next week. She's going to be addressing issues around aging and human connection, which is important stuff at any age. And then down the line, we also have a master gardener lined up for those who love gardening and growing their own food. And finally, we've got before I guess going into December, we've got an expert on holistic health and pain relieving CBD products. So if you're interested, if you have questions about CBD and products like that, there's some helpful sessions coming up. So great to see everybody. Thank you so much for joining us once again. And we hope to see Rebecca and Tom soon, and then everybody else soon as well. So thanks very much.
Awesome.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.